Welcome to the Alcohol Free Life podcast, brought to you by thesoberclub.com. I'm Janey Grace. This is for you if you've quit the booze or you'd like to, or maybe you're just sober curious. I'll bring you tips and motivation without any judgment, and there'll be inspiration from experts, quit-lit authors, and sober heroes. Hi and welcome to the Alcohol Free Life podcast. It's me talking at you this week. I just have a whole bunch of things that I wanted to just share, I suppose, things that have been coming up for me, and often they're the things that people are talking about within the Sober Club community as well, and just stuff that might be on your mind as much as it is on mine. So I thought I'd share a few thoughts with you. Just before I do that, a reminder that we have an Alcohol Free Life podcast live meetup, well, a live recording if you like. It's on July the 2nd at Club Soda in London. You do have to get tickets, and I'm guessing they are nearly sold out. So please check it out. Join us if you can. I'll put the link in the show notes. And my special guest, oh my goodness, how very special, is Claire Pooley. I'm so excited. Claire was just such an incredible powerhouse, really, an amazing part of my journey. Reading her book, The Sober Diaries, was literally what kicked it all off for me. So I'm incredibly grateful to Claire, and it'd be brilliant to chat to her at that event, and to meet Sober Club members and podcast listeners, and of course to talk about Claire's new book, which is a novel, her third novel, How to Age Disgracefully. It's a fantastic read. I was lucky enough to get an early copy. It's super good. So we'll chat about that. And of course, we'll be talking about the Sober Diaries as well. Bound to be doing that. So if you want to meet Claire and some like-minded people, then see if you can grab yourself a ticket for July the 2nd at Club Soda in London. Before that, on Wednesday the 19th of June, just working backwards, there is a free webinar on what it means to be a sober coach. I appreciate that's not for everyone, but just in case it is something that you've been thinking of, perhaps you've ditched the booze and you're thinking, actually, I really would like to give back. I really would like a rewarding career as I move on in my life, or maybe you want a little side hustle, or you've been thinking you would like to sort of underpin, if you like, lay foundations for your own sobriety, then just come along to our webinar. It's absolutely no pressure at all. It's not a sell. I don't try and sell this. I really believe that the right people turn up. I really do believe that. I think that when the energy is right, the right people come to do this kind of work. So if there's kind of a little voice saying, I am interested in that, then have a look at the show notes, and there's a link there. You can sign up and join us on that free webinar on the 19th of June. The constellation session that we had booked has now been postponed. I won't bore you with all the reasons, but that's been postponed. So we're putting in place another date for constellations, and also a date in York in the summer. So if you're interested, drop me a message, and maybe we can find a date that works for the most people. So it'd be fantastic to see you at some point for family constellations. Got some other very exciting things to share with you coming up in the future. There's also, I'm going to be speaking at a alcohol-free, take a break from alcohol retreat weekend at Homefield Grange Spa. So that's super exciting. Really looking forward to that. And that's the first weekend in July. So that's the, let me see, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, that'll be the 5th, Saturday the 5th. I'm going to be part of that at Homefield at the fabulous, beautiful spa there. And then at some point in the not too distant future, I'm also going to be hosting a retreat there. So very exciting news, and just drop me a message if you're interested, and I'll make sure I put the links in the show notes for you. So what I'm going to share with you today has come about because of a few different reasons, really. One is that I have a memoir coming out in October, at the end of October. I might have mentioned this before. I mean, it feels really early to even talk about it, but clearly it isn't, because I'm booking events to do book tours and festivals and bookshops and things like that. So obviously I do have to start talking about it. But the book is called From Wham to Woo, A Life on the Mic. And I chose that title because I'm sure many of you know that I started my career as a backing singer and a singer with various bands, including Wham, on all their tours. I know, right? There'll be some of you thinking, what the hell? And several other fantastic pop bands. And then I had my own top 10 hit single with Cola Boy, and I've done all kinds of stuff within the music business. And then, of course, I was on with Steve Wright in the Afternoon for 24 years. So there's a lot of stories, right? There really is a lot of stories there. And a publisher actually asked me to do this and said, I'm sure you've got some interesting stuff to share. And at first I thought, oh, I don't think so, really. I'm not in the business of ditching dirt on anybody. But then I realized, actually, there are some really fun stories. So I've decided to do the book. But it didn't feel right to just do a kind of memoir that drops names and lists various music biz stuff, although that's interesting and it's fun. And if you are interested in the 80s and 90s, you'll love it. But I realized that I had to kind of touch on what's happened since and the way my life has kind of turned around, really. And so that's what's summed up in the woo part of the title. And that's because, from, I don't know how long ago, I guess probably maybe 25 years, I've just had this awareness of the holistic picture. And that really is the health and well-being picture. It started for me as what food I was putting in my mouth. And then, of course, it moves on to what's going on in your head. You really do have to look at mind, body, spirit. Actually, that's the other thing, is that I'm speaking at the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival this coming Sunday. So that's the other reason I've been thinking about all of this stuff. So yeah, I'm at the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival. I'm going to be talking there about energy and about raising your vibration. And so all of this kind of links together. And I realized that as part of what I'm going to be sharing when I do book tours and various things is not just the fun stuff from the 80s and 90s, but also what's happened since and the way the woo, if you like, has affected my life. And, I'm using the word woo tongue in cheek, of course, but I think we all know what I mean by that, which is the whole kind of spiritual picture, the whole concept of our energy and something bigger than ourselves. So I thought actually this week what I'd do is I'd share with you a few bits and bobs, a few tips, if you like, a few thoughts that I've been having around the magical, if you want to call it that, the whole idea of raising your vibration, of manifesting what you want, all of those magical terms. But then I'll also throw in some very practical tips. So hopefully this week there'll be something for everyone. So if you're thinking to yourself, oh, for God's sake, she's going to go off on one of those, spirituality tangents, and I'm on day one, I just want to bloody well know what to do, then there's something for you. And if you've been sober for a while, and you actually would love to know how you can kind of focus on getting more of what you want in your life, how you can raise your vibration to attract what it is you want, then hopefully it's for you as well. So here we go. These are some of the thoughts that I've been jotting down as I've been prepping for both my book tour, which is not till October, and the Mind, Body, Spirit show, which is in fact this weekend. It's this whole idea of how we elevate our vibration and how we manifest our best life alcohol-free. I really do believe that when you stop drinking, it is so much more than, in inverted commas, just ditching the booze. Of course, that underpins it. Of course, removing that toxicity from your life is huge. But then it's what fills that gap. Number one, why did we drink in the first place? And what choices do we make moving forward that make a big difference to us, that make a big difference in our lives and help us to grow and to focus on what it is we want. So this word vibration, it sounds a bit, it sounds very woo-woo, doesn't it? And how we manifest our best life. But actually, these concepts are scientific, despite seeming woo-woo. You may have watched The Secret, the documentary that was so famous a while ago, all about the law of attraction. But of course, many people dismiss all of that completely, because when we try to manifest something, when we kind of just dip our toes into the law of attraction. We try and manifest something, and then we try and vaguely think positively, but then perhaps we don't get the Ferrari that we said we wanted, or we don't find ourselves alcohol free and 2 stone lighter and jumping around like the Duracell bunny 3 days after stopping drinking. So then we get completely disillusioned and asking ourselves, well, that's crazy. That didn't work. So I'm not going to do that again. And so what we need to access, if you like, is a sustainable way of focusing on what we want rather than what we don't want. So we need to focus, what we focus on, we get more of, right? So we obviously need to focus on the positive. And you'll know, if you've heard this podcast before, or if you're a member of the Sober Club, that I'm really hot on people not using the phrase give up. I really don't want you ever to say it. I'm giving up alcohol. No, you're not. That tells your unconscious mind that you're going to be missing out, that you're going to be deprived of something. It implies that deprivation or that loss. But the reality is there is nothing to give up. So instead of using that phrase, choose a different phrase: stopping drinking, quitting the booze, ditch the booze, whatever phrase you want, and focus on what you'll be gaining, because there's everything to gain, nothing to lose. So focus on what it means to be alcohol free, to have more energy, to have more clarity, to have that higher vibration that I'm about to go on to talk about. Because when we reinforce the positive, that encourages us to focus on the positive behaviors. It gives us that little push to focus on the things that we've said we want and create that mindset of abundance rather than that mindset of scarcity and loss. And, there is a science behind all of this. There really is. I know it all sounds like it's terribly dippy, but there is research in psychology and neuroscience that absolutely supports the idea that what we focus on, we get more of. And it's only in relatively recent years that we've even known about neuroplasticity. It seems incredible, really, but the brain's ability to rewire itself based on our thoughts and our experiences. You've heard many times on this podcast this concept of choosing our thoughts. Now, yes, the ones we don't want will pop up as well, but we can acknowledge those and we can ask, well, is it true? When we focus on our positive thoughts, it really does start to strengthen those neural pathways, the ones that promote the happiness and the well-being for us. So one of the things that I often talk about, often if I'm doing a retreat day or whatever, is I talk to people about the reticular activating system. I'm sure you know about this, RAS. It's that part of the brain that filters information, that will highlight what we focus on. And you know what it's like if you decide you want to buy a new car and you go, oh, you know what, I think I want a Fiat 500, but I want a really, really unusual color. And I'm sure I've seen in the catalogue somewhere that, they do them in a really unusual tangerine color. And that's the one I want because it's so unusual, so completely unique. And I don't think I've even seen one before. So I'm really looking forward to, going and ordering one of those. I mean, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? I wish I could afford one of those Fiat 5. They're nice. Anyways, so, you head out and the very next time you're on the road, you see 10 of them, right? In exactly that color. It's not because they weren't there before. It's because they weren't on your radar before. And your reticular activating system, your RAS, wasn't looking for them until that moment. And when it was, suddenly they were brought to you, as it were. So when we focus on positive outcomes, when what we focus on, our reticular activating system brings more of that into our conscious awareness. So, when we're discussing the incredible transformative power of choosing to be alcohol free, it can really align with positive energy, with raising our vibration, if you like, to manifest what it is we really want. So one of the things that people in, spiritual circles, you might say, might talk about is how we need to match our frequency. So you've probably heard about, the expression of raising your vibration and raising the frequency so that our frequency matches, it aligns our energy with the frequency and the energy, if you like, of what it is we want. And that's what allows us to attract these things into our lives. And this is something that has really kind of come home to me recently. I've really been focusing on this because I've realized that, sometimes I'll tell myself I want certain things, or perhaps within my business, I want things to go a certain way. But actually, if someone were to challenge me, the reality is I've got quite a few limiting beliefs, or I've got a lot of resistance to whatever that thing is. And when you've got resistance or you've got limiting beliefs, it's all very well saying, I really want this. But actually, there's something blocking you. You're often blocking yourself. So it takes a little bit of time to actually notice what might be blocking me. And everything in the universe, our thoughts, our emotions, everything operates at a specific frequency. And matching our frequency means that we have to align our energy with the frequency of that which we desire. And obviously, if there are things blocking it, if there is a limiting belief, if there's, just a shame, if there's guilt, if there's massive anxiety, if there's fear, that will get in the way. That will literally get in the way. We hear about people talking about wanting to sell their home. They go on and on about how much they want to sell their house. It's been on the market and they're whinging and moaning that it hasn't sold yet, or maybe they get really close to getting a buyer and then the buyer falls through and then they complain again that the house still hasn't sold. But, and of course, I'm not saying this in every case, but I have absolutely known this to be true with a friend. When you dig really deep into it, and often it's a little way down the line, that person will suddenly realize, hold on a minute, I'm not ready to sell. There's something blocking me. There's something I haven't let go of. So I'm not actually ready to sell. So it was literally like the frequency, the energy isn't matching. And so the house doesn't sell until they're able to let go of that resistance. And this has literally happened to a friend of mine. And once she was able to let go of those kind of fears, anxious thoughts, whatever it was, the limiting beliefs, the resistance that was blocking her, that was sort of telling her to hold on to what she always knew, rather than being brave and making a change. When she was able to kind of let that go, the house sold. Of course it did, because the energies matched all of a sudden. And that's how the law of attraction works, because the law of attraction states that like attracts like, that positive thoughts, high vibrational thoughts, if you like, will attract positive outcomes and opportunities. What you focus on, you get more of. We really know that, don't we? We all of us know that. When you focus on good comes to you. When you're feeling utterly miserable and down and depressed, and we've all been there, particularly anyone who's been drinking more than they want to, it just feels as though you get more shit thrown at you. That's how it goes. When you're in the depths of despair, hating yourself, more crap will be poured on your head. I really believe that. And so, of course, it's difficult, because when you're in that state, how do you then rise above it, as it were? How do you make sure that you haven't got continuing negative thoughts and those low vibrations that will attract more negativity to you, more challenges? It's like a cycle of negativity, if you will. And the more I think about this, the more I realize I've had periods in my life when I've spent so long in that goddamn cycle of negativity. And what those negative thoughts do is they literally emit a lower frequency, and that attracts more low frequency experiences. So we literally get this cycle of negativity. It brings more and more negativity towards us. We all know people, don't we, who are they're just very negative. Everything that comes out their mouth is an argument or a negative statement. They're exhausting to be around, right? I know we all go through times where we're not feeling so great, but some people really do have that vibe, and it's very exhausting being around them. So, if that's you, acknowledge it and ask yourself, how can I raise my vibration? How can I get free from this? Because apart from anything else, it will lead to stress. That's what leads to stress and anxiety and physical health issues. When you have prolonged negative thinking, when you're constantly in a state of anxiety or stress or fear, it literally diminishes our energy levels. It diminishes our immunity almost. It just makes everything harder to maintain that positive outlook, harder to go after what it is we want. We've all been there. Trust me. Anyone listening to this podcast, I'm guessing you're listening because you've had a struggle with alcohol. I mean, seriously, alcohol is so low vibrational. And when you drink it and drink too much of it, it literally lowers your vibration. And, this is the interesting piece, isn't it? Because those of us who were drinking, when we were drinking, we often would think of alcohol as our reward, as our high, as the thing that would make us feel better, make us feel more confident, more happy, more relaxed, more fun, more, as it were. But the opposite is true. Alcohol acts as a depressant. It actually lowers our frequency and it impairs our ability to think clearly, to think positively. It disrupts our health, obviously, both mentally and physically. So that will lead to an energy drain. We'll have mood swings. And then, crazily, unlike if we ate the wrong food when we'd never touch it again, crazily, we do all this to ourselves with alcohol, feel like absolute shit, and then the next day we do it all again. Incredible, isn't it? And I'm sure some of you have heard either me or someone else, I don't know, people do sometimes talk about the origin of the word alcohol. Now, don't let this freak you out, but let me share it with you anyway. It has intriguing origins, the word alcohol. It derives from the word alcohol. It's spelled A-L-Khul. And believe it or not, that translates as flesh-eating spirit. Nice, right? Charmed, I'm sure. And some people believe that alcohol was traditionally associated with spiritual entities because of its intoxicating effects. Now, just think about that for a moment. For God's sake, you'll all have had the experience of either yourself or someone you know, of saying he's not himself when he's been drinking, right? That blackout thing. I don't understand what went on with him. He's not himself. She's not who she really is when she's drinking. Well, dead right. There could be a reason, right, why alcoholic beverages are called spirits. I mean, I know that sounds a bit heavy, but that could explain why it has such a negative effect on our energy and on our, I suppose, openness to have a good energy and to be spiritual. I know that I've told you so many times that for me, even though I was queen of all things spirituality and a Hay House author, and I used to interview all kinds of amazing spiritual gurus, if you'd actually asked me about my own spiritual practice, I would have just said, don't be ridiculous. It has nothing to do with me. And the reason for that is that I couldn't sit in meditation. I couldn't be properly mindful. Of course I couldn't, because I wasn't authentic. I couldn't kind of, sit and meditate when, if I did, it would be hugely uncomfortable because a little voice would kind of pop into my head and it would just kind of say, what are you doing? This is not who you're meant to be. Why are you trying to pretend that you are? Yeah, and on, the voice in the head. So what do we do? How do we kind of get away from this low vibrational energy? Well, obviously, I would say the number one practical step to do that is to stop drinking, right? Remove the toxicity from your life. And of course, there are other toxic aspects as well. But let's start with removing alcohol. There are so many benefits when you remove the alcohol from your life. You will hopefully have this incredible opportunity to raise your vibration. You'll have better energy levels, better mental clarity, better well-being. you will be able to attract more positive experiences into your life. You will feel better about yourself. That's a massive one. It's a massive one, actually, starting to like yourself. So many members of the Sober Club have said this, when I ask, what's the best thing about being alcohol free, or the most surprising thing? Just one after the other, people will say, I can't believe it. I actually am okay with myself. And that's a huge thing, because most of us aren't. There's an epidemic of lack of self-esteem and self-love, right? And when you stop drinking, it doesn't mean you become egotistical. It means you're able to value yourself. And that's huge, absolutely huge. So what are some practical steps then to match our frequency and manifest our desires, what it is we want? Well, I really do think meditation is important here, but there's not one way to do meditation or mindfulness. There are a million different ways to do it, actually. If it suits you to sit cross-legged and do 20 minutes in the morning and night, then fantastic. That's a wonderful practice to be able to do. But if for you, it means setting a timer for 5 minutes, you know what, that's okay too. And I recommend that everyone starts their day with just a few moments, even if it really is just a few moments. And you don't necessarily have to go to your mat or light a candle. Literally just go within to center yourself before you start your day. So don't have your goddamn phone by your bed and pick it up and start looking at emails and texts before you've even had time to check in with how you are. Leave your phone, preferably outside the room, but just start the day with an intention to set a high frequency tone for the day. I mean, number one, if you're sober, that's going to be a lot easier, because waking up sober never gets old, never gets old. There isn't a day goes by when I don't wake up and feel such gratitude for being sober. Unbelievable gratitude. And I think that will be forever, really. I mean, what am I now? What am I? I've completely forgotten how sober. Is it 6 and a bit years or something? I mean, it's incredible. But it gets better every year, and every single day I am grateful for waking up sober. So that's just magical. And if you aren't sober yet, if you're still in the early stages, that's okay. You do the faking it till you make it thing, or create it till you make it thing, where you wake up and okay, your first thought might be, I don't know how I'm going to get through today, but focus on something positive. Actually set the intention, set the frequency, so that you can, rise up towards it, as it were, so that you can begin to put some positivity into your day right from the off. And then practice little moments of mindfulness or meditation through the day. There's, what's to stop you? Just literally focusing on something that's I don't know, high vibrational for 1 minute while you're waiting for the bus or whatever it might be. And then, of course, in addition to the what's going on in your mind, what's going on in terms of your thoughts and feelings, you do have to do the physical stuff as well, because we know that eating nutritious foods is going to make a massive difference. You've got to fuel your body. You've got to support the higher energy levels. And if you're in the early stages of stopping drinking, you know that I am, a very big believer that good food is imperative. It's absolutely critical that you have good food in those early weeks of stopping drinking. So that's really critical. And then, we go on to the kind of exercise piece, and that's really important too. Getting out into nature, using your body, in whatever way that works for you. It's super important, to be able to do that. And then the next thing is the gratitude practice. So having some kind of a gratitude journal, if you like, or somewhere where you can make some notes, where you can be grateful for things every day. Really, really important. That will help shift your mindset towards positivity and abundance. I'm just going to chip in here with a tiny bit about forgiveness, because a lot of people believe and they feel that they can't forgive themselves. They find it hard to forgive others and for themselves. But actually, if you can use the incredible little chant, if you like, the Ho'oponopono. It's unbelievably daft word, isn't it? But it's really powerful. It's just to literally speak the 4 phrases: I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. You can read more about this on thesoberclub.com. I've got a whole blog post about this, but it's incredible how it works. That simple little chant, which enables you to just let go of that thing, that person, that energy that it needs forgiveness. And that, by the way, doesn't mean you're accepting someone's behavior. If someone has behaved badly towards you, it doesn't mean you're letting them off the hook, but it means you're not eating yourself up with the terrible energy of it all. When I talk about Ho'oponopono, I often think of Joe Dispenza, a really incredible spiritual teacher and neuroscientist who did a conference in Barcelona last weekend. I'm so disappointed I didn't get to go, but a friend of mine went. And, one of the things that Joe Dispenza says is, when you take your attention off your body and invest your energy into a greater mind, you create the conditions to change matter. Isn't that amazing? You actually create the conditions to change something. So, and of course, the main thing that came out of that conference, my friend told me, was Joe Dispenza's lovely kind of, what's the word? Inspiration, if you like, nugget of inspiration, which is just to be willing to trust the unknown, which is so powerful. Just begin to be willing to reprogram your mind, to break the old habits, create the new habits, and trust the unknown. So the other piece that I really want to focus on is the whole idea of visualization. So visualization is incredibly powerful, I suppose. It's like an emotional rehearsal for what's going to be happening. So if you imagine your desired outcomes, but you imagine them in detail, right, in great detail, and you use the intense emotion, that will align the vibration to the outcome you want. Okay, I know this is sounding ridiculously woo-woo, but rather than just simply saying, I want this, I want to be sober, actually visualize, what will that mean for you? Why do you want it, for starters? And what will it look like? Really, what will it look like when you are? Will you look different? Will you feel different? What will you be doing? Can you visualize yourself? And that really makes a difference when you have that kind of emotional rehearsal, if you like, that visualization. And then in order to maintain high vibration and the positive energy, we need consistency, right? And we need to kind of make the practices a regular part of our day, a regular part of our routine, so that we can keep up that high vibe kind of feeling. So it's the small actions, the little steps, the moments when we pause to just have literally a moment of mindfulness, just to appreciate as we sip the coffee, or, reframe something that might be annoying us. I know there's a real sense to this sounding all very Pollyanna-ish. Oh, for God's sake, the bus is late. How am I going to reframe that? Well, how lucky are we that we're on a bus route? There's always a way, isn't there? There's always a way of reframing everything, actually. And then the kind of making mindful choices, I suppose, is important as well, because we do have to work hard to make sure that our environment and those around us support the choices we've made. If you are choosing to stop drinking, and you know why, you want to be healthier, you want to be happier. There's a good title for a book. You want to be happy, healthy, sober, right? If you know that that's what it is you want, if you're really looking forward to feeling more gratitude, to liking yourself more, to having more energy, to having more clarity, if you simply then, rock up to the sort of dingy pub that you always used to go to, hanging out with the same friends where there's no alcohol-free options on offer, that's going to be really difficult. There's a real it's not going to align, right? Of course it isn't. So you need to surround yourself with positive influences, with the right people, with the right environments, and choose activities that uplift you, choose activities that energize you. And at least to start with, you do your best to avoid anything that's going to just take you right back to where you were before. And that's where the connection piece comes in. So being connected with like-minded people is the key here. It really is. So if you make the choice, okay, I'm not going to go to the pub, or I'm not going to go to that work event, I don't have to go, and I'm going to choose not to go. I'm going to protect my sobriety. I'm going to protect my energy, literally. Then you do need to be able to offload your thoughts somewhere. You need you need support. You need like-minded people to cheer you on. And of course, I would say that's where the Sober Club comes in, because we do become cheerleaders for each other. If someone comes on to the Sober Club group and shares that they're feeling a bit down, or they're worried about something, we are literally able to elevate them. We really are. We can elevate each other. We can help them see things a different way, help them, to just raise the vibration and match their front frequency to what it is they say they want. And it makes a massive difference to have people in your corner. So I hope some of those tips were helpful. It's about manifesting what it is you want, being really clear about what it is you want, recognizing that when you visualize it in detail, it's far more likely to, you're far more likely to attract it to you. Recognizing the impact of the negative thoughts that you have. Don't beat yourself up if they still come in, but just notice them, let them pass. Play the tape forward, and really owning the benefits of what's going to be there for you when you manifest what you want. And by putting in place little daily practices, you really can attract more positivity into your life. So I hope some of that helps. And then in case you are, if you want more of that kind of stuff, by the way, I'm going to be going into much more detail at the Mind, Body, Spirit show. I'm speaking on Sunday at midday on the midlife stage. So for those of you who are coming to the Mind, Body, Spirit show, I really look forward to meeting you. But for those of you who are thinking, okay, great, now cut with the woo-woo crap. Let's look at some of the practical steps. If you are early days in sobriety, I'm going to whiz through again some of the practical steps for navigating those early days. All of this you've heard me say before. I've just wrapped it up into a few bullet points, a slightly different way, because people sometimes say to me, oh, I'm on day 5 and I'm not feeling X and Y, or, oh, I'm on week 3. Some of this takes time. So I'll give you a kind of a ballpark structure, I suppose you might say, or this is the way it might go. It might not, but it might go this way, which might just kind of help you to recognize you've got to give this time. This is worth doing. It's literally the best thing you'll ever do. So day 1, when you choose to stop drinking, set your clear intention. Okay, lay the foundations and write down why you're choosing to be alcohol free. If you join us in the Sober Club, we've got a 90-day course, and the course is called Get the Buzz Without the Booze. And the course takes you through a whole bunch of steps. It's very, very detailed. It has a whole thing about nutrition as well. So it's a fantastic course. But whether you have it or not, day 1, I'm going to be recommending you write down why you want this. What's the why? Why are you choosing to be alcohol free? And then very importantly, why, what are you looking for from it? What are the benefits that you're hoping for? And it's really important at that point that you focus on the positives. There may be some negatives. It may be that you write down, I really want to be alcohol free because I don't fancy going back to the feeling so terrible anymore, or because my partner is really going to leave me if I continue. There may well be negative stuff in there, but there also needs to be positive. So what are you looking forward to? And if you really don't know, get inspired. Go back and listen to a whole bunch of my podcasts. I have hundreds and hundreds. So go back and listen, get yourself inspired, and then write a list of what you're looking forward to. in terms of that, you want to take that even further, write in a journal, a whole list of things in detail that you're looking forward to, or do a vision board. I do workshops on creating vision boards, but just create one, because that's really powerful too. The second thing is right from the off, get a support network, get connected with like-minded people. Your closest friends and family may not be your best supporters here. That's not to say they won't want to support you, but really you need people who've walked the same path. So find some kind of support group. Of course, I'd say join us in the Sober Club, but do whatever works for you, but don't do this on your own. Tell someone and have somewhere where you can actually share what's going on for you. And then for some people, they find it's a really good idea to look at their environment. So they might want to clear the alcohol from their home, if that's possible. They might want to put other hobbies in place so that they've got, other stuff to do. And they will almost certainly want to recognize the importance of getting really good food in. Decide how you're going to handle social occasions. That's a big one. You have to make the decision. Sometimes people want to avoid social occasions to start with, and any environment where, there's loads of alcohol and no options. And that's absolutely fine. Remember that lovely saying, no is a complete sentence. If you don't want to go, end of. No need to make any excuses. If you do decide to go out or you do decide to socialize, then plan ahead. Plan ahead. This is worth doing. So make your plans, plan ahead. And then really focus on the self-care. Super, super important to focus on the self-care through all of this. So as I say, good food, hydration, physical activities. And then after that, you're going to be thinking about building some kind of momentum. So just replacing all the old habits with the new ones. Make sure that you've got good new routines and schedule activities that you really enjoy. Don't forget the mindfulness, the meditation that I've already mentioned. Track your progress, celebrate your little milestones, buy yourself something nice that's actually healthy, and have an app or keep a journal that where you write all this stuff down. And of course, if you want more support, then seek some professional help. As you know, I'm a coach. I coach people one-to-one. I also train people to be sober coaches. There is a lot of amazing support out there which can really help you address some of the underlying issues. And then stay inspired, stay really educated, in inverted commas, keep learning, listen to all my podcasts. It's not just me, most of them are amazing guests, but listen to podcasts and educate yourself about alcohol and about how amazing it is to be alcohol free. And then, as all this continues, we're getting on into the months, and then you can be thinking about thriving in sobriety. Then it's not just the kind of knuckling it and panicking. It's really thriving. It's starting to feel better, expanding your social circle, fostering relationships with people that really care about the real you, making sure you're looking at new hobbies, you're focusing on being happy, healthy, sober. And of course, gratitude comes into all of this as well. Keep that gratitude journal or that space to just be grateful, really notice what it is you're grateful for. And then, of course, carry on learning and growing, the inspiration, the workshop, the classes. Come and do constellations with us. It's absolutely amazing. And always keep reflecting back on what's been amazing about your journey. Of course, because I do this work, I'm kind of thinking about it all the time. But even if I wasn't doing this work, I know that I would still be waking up every single day just feeling incredibly blessed that I've made this choice. So I hope that was helpful for you. A little bit of the woo, a little bit of the practicality. Always reach out if you're doing this hard thing. Drop me a message. I'll reply to as many messages as I possibly can. You can follow me on social media at Janey Lee Grace. You know where to find thesoberclub.com. Come and join us. It's very low cost. It's very high value. It really is. I would say that, wouldn't I? But it is. And check out the show notes for all the information there. Look forward to hopefully seeing some of you at the Mind, Body, Spirit show at Olympia this weekend in London. And then the rest of you, maybe I'll see some of you on July the 2nd. Maybe I'll see some of you on the webinar. and then we'll have a retreat in place in due course. Have yourself a fantastic bank holiday weekend. And by the way, just 'cause it's a holiday, that does not mean the wine witch has to make an appearance. Absolutely not. We're the lucky ones. Keep holding on to that. See you later. Thank you for listening to the Alcohol Free Life podcast, brought to you by the Sober Club. Please rate and review. And if you want support, accountability and inspiration, and you want to live your best life without the booze, check out thesoberclub.com.